Welcome to the Future Resolution, Miles Mediation and Arbitration's podcast. This episode features Georgia Appeals Court Judge Kenneth Hodges. He is interviewed by Miles Mediation and Arbitration mediator and arbitrator Winter Wheeler.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Winter Wheeler, and I am here today joined by Judge Ken Hodges. And Judge Hodges is currently on the Georgia Court of Appeals, one of the few judges right now that we have that was elected to the court. He ran in 2018 on a contested ticket. That's Judge Hodges. I really want to talk about something that's near and dear to your heart and mine as well. And that's mental health in the legal profession. And so, of course, right now, as we're taping this, we're dealing with COVID-19. We're all in quarantine and on lockdown. And it's been such a crazy time, such a weird time for all of us. And I know, for myself, it's brought up a lot of issues I didn't know I had. And so I'm sure that that's an issue for other folks as well. You know, I'm definitely like a social person, like to be out. So it's been really hard for me to be at home and away from my friends and away from the people that I care about for such a long time. So I figured this would be a really good medium to talk about why mental health in general is something that's important to you. What do you think?
Well, sure. And thanks, Winter, for having me. And I, like you, look forward to not being sequestered and sheltering in place. But it's good for us to do that. I'm glad that you're doing, your family's doing it. I'm glad that you're well and safe. And especially the same for my friends here in Albany, Georgia, where I live, which is number one in the country per capita and number 3 in the world per capita for COVID related illnesses and deaths, which is just unbelievable to me.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's a scary time, and we really do need to be safe when we're out. I don't go out other than to get food and other provisions that we need for the family. When I do, I put on a mask, I put on gloves, I am socially distant from people. I get what I need to get, and I get home. And then those clothes go directly in the washing machine, and I take a shower and make sure. I mean, I treat it with the respect that it should, given the fact that it has killed people and killed people that are friends of mine. And so this is a very scary time. Illness, mental well-being is very important to me. Former President Bob Kaufman brought to his presidency the initiative of the the wellness program for the state bar. That's mental well-being, social well-being, and physical well-being. And he asked me to chair the then task force, which is now a full committee of the bar and has done a number of great things, including promote CLEs focused just on mental well-being. And it's a great resource. The best way to get all of the information is to go to the website, go to the State Bar website, which is www.gabar.org. And the first thing you'll see is links to not only the wellness initiative, but all the other resources that are available for attorneys. And I'll be honest with you, when I was a member of the bar, and now I've been a member of the bar almost 30 years, but when I was a brand new member of the bar, I didn't know what the bar did for me. I didn't think it was that there was any real service that the state bar could provide. But after I left prosecution and got into private practice in Atlanta, I became more involved with the state bar. I joined the board of governors and then served on the executive committee and then went through the officer ranks. And the more involved I got with the bar and the more hands-on and going down to the actual facility, which is an amazing facility, the more I know what the bar does and can do. And with regard to wellness, the first placard up on the website right now is what are the COVID-19 resources that are available for you. For those lawyers that are out there that are running their solo or small firms, they've got 1 or 2 employees. The cases are drying up. Justice Melton signed an order on March 14th of this year that now goes through May 13th. So 2 full months of effectively tolling everything other than emergencies, other than essentials, other than bond hearings, TROs, things that are emergencies are put on the wayside. And so if you're trying to run a practice, things come to a standstill, you don't have the revenue coming in. What can you do? Well, this website tells you how you can go and get small business loans that I understand to be forgivable. So if you're able to, get a $50,000 loan and you keep your business going for 2 months because of that, I understand that it's forgivable. I tell you what would be great for most people to do that are watching this during this time, since they're not being able to get to court, they ought to go to Miles Mediation and sign up a mediation plan with you and resolve these cases. But we do need to.
I would disagree.
I think you would, but mediators really ought to be in high demand right now. I will tell you that the Court of Appeals is running full speed. We have got a fantastic clerk, a fantastic IT department, a fantastic administrative staff who, quite frankly, did envision something closing the courts down. They didn't envision a pandemic, and they didn't envision it being 2 months long by the end of this order. But they did envision a weather-related incident or something that would close the physical building down. And so we can work remotely, and we do, and we are. And just this morning, I worked on several opinions that I've got this term. And I've read and approved opinions from my colleagues on the panel and gotten them out. To be sure, filings are down, and they're down because of this pandemic. So we haven't gotten the motions, the briefs, the requests for oral arguments, and applications that we would normally get in the volume that we would normally get. But when we get them, we're working on them. We are making sure that they are given the attention that they need. And just this morning, we via Zoom, as you and I are Zooming now, met as a whole court, all 15 of us, including the 2 new appointees, all met this morning, and we decided that we're going to proceed with oral arguments via Zoom. And appropriately, Judge Dillard's panel is going to be the first one. I believe it's going to be May 2nd, maybe the 3rd, but it'll be on the court website, and you can see that, and you can go to that, and you can watch it. The Georgia Supreme Court is going to do it next week. They're going to go live next week, starting, I think, at 10 a.m. Monday morning for their first session, and I think they're going 2 or 3 days in a row. The Supreme Court does have more oral arguments than we do, so they're going to need to, they're starting sooner, and they're going to have more of them. But we are open for business, and so if you have something pending with us and you can work, file your brief. You don't have to, as you said, lawyers sometimes tend to procrastinate, and they do, and I was victim to that sometimes. Just because you've got this tolling period doesn't mean you have to use it. We want you to use it if you need to use it. Right. Very much so. I don't want you to feel stressed out. Our production is a little tougher because we're working from home. I know you have little ones. I have little ones. I've told them not to come in. This door behind me may open up, and they may come barging in and ask for something, which they have done on other Zoom conferences. And then when they see someone and someone they like, say, "Oh, it's Miss Winter," and they'll want to start waving to you and talking to you while we're having this conversation.
I'm familiar with that, yeah.
Gotta roll with that. But we've even recently gone to having pro se folks be able to file online, which is new for us. Mm-hmm. So, but then circling back to your question, I ran off on a long rabbit trail there with Operation Court. But the wellness initiative with the state bar is fabulous. It was, again, Bob Kaufman's brainchild. I was happy to work on it. And it really does promote mental, social, and physical well-being, all 3 of which are very important components to overall well-being. You mentioned before we talked, and you may have mentioned since we started recording this, the counseling sessions. There is a lawyer's assistance program which offers a number of things, including 6 free counseling sessions per year for a Georgia lawyer. And it is not, let me underscore, not, let me capitalize, not affiliated with the Office of General Counsel. So if you have a problem, whether it's stress related, whether it's alcohol related, whether it's maritally related, whether it's drug related, whatever it is, and it is causing you not to be able to function as a lawyer, we want you to get the help before the problem becomes a disciplinary problem. And if it becomes a disciplinary problem, then it does go to Paula Frederick in the Office of General Counsel, and you can have sanctions against your license. You can lose the privilege to practice law. You can have it suspended. There are a number of things that can happen. But if you go to this confidential hotline and you say, hey, I need help, then we'll get you help. We'll get you in touch with someone, and you can get 6 free counseling sessions per year. Most insurance companies will pay for this too, so you could probably get more benefits beyond that. We also recently implemented a peer-to-peer program where if let's just use alcohol as the example, because unfortunately they don't call it the bar for nothing.
Right.
We do tend to drink, and if you have an issue with that and you have an alcohol-related substance abuse problem, you can reach out to the peer-to-peer group, and they will connect you with someone who has been through that problem. And it's also private, and you can get help. So it's a 1-800 number. It's 1-800-327-9631. It's on the State Bar website, and I would invite the folks to use that if they need it.
Wow, that's fantastic. There were I thought I knew a lot about that program. Apparently not. You gave me a lot of extra information, really good information. So I'll definitely be sharing that with people every time that I can. You see people struggling, and it's hard sometimes to approach them. But I think, it's better to take that leap and go ahead and speak to them, as opposed to the worst happening, So for example, I have severe anxiety with, people who know me think that, they don't really get that. They're like, you have anxiety? But I do. I have severe anxiety. And I can't dwell on anything negative for any length of time, right? Because if I do, I'm probably going to have a panic attack, which is certainly not good if you got to go make an argument or if you're in the middle of a mediation or something like that. So, right. What I've always done is just kind of go into workaholic mode and just focus on those things. Or I'll focus in very closely with my kids. And that's just kind of how I've been able to manage it. So when, for me, when all of this started, it was super hard. I definitely, I don't know if it was a clinical depression, probably not, but I was definitely sad. I was having a hard time getting out of bed because, when Miles closed its physical office, I really didn't know what I was going to do. We didn't have the Zoom platform up and running. So, there was I don't know, maybe a week or so where I really didn't know what was going to happen. And I just felt kind of lost. I was just kind of hanging out there in the ether. And so thankfully, we got this up and going virtually, and I was able to keep working and didn't really miss a beat. But then at the same time, I like being the people person that I am, and I like to socialize, and I like to just engage with people in person. And I still really miss that, obviously. But having the virtual platform not only allowed me to work, it also allows me to have conversations with people like you, and other friends and things like that. So I kind of have been able to work through those issues just by keeping myself busy and allowing myself the grace, I suppose, to recognize that it was an issue and not hide behind it. So I think, the more we talk about these things, the more we're going to have people who are willing to use the services. So, I want to see a day where every lawyer is using all 6 of their free sessions, because we absolutely need them and there shouldn't be any stigma about it. So I think that's a fantastic initiative. And I'm really hoping that right now, especially since this pandemic continues and, every day you turn on the news, it's worse. And the economy is shrinking, my God, at a rate that, I've never seen in my lifetime. It's going to become more necessary for people to reach out, and hopefully they know that they can, and without judgment. This is one of those rare situations where, you can say, hey, we're all in this together. No, for real. This time, like we all are in this together. We're all watching these things happen around us that we have no control over. So if we can, be gracious and reach a hand out when you see someone struggling, offer that hope. I'm going to write that phone number down for sure and keep it handy, and make sure I'm sharing it with people. And, if I need it, I'm going to use it myself too. And so I guess that kind of brings me to another question, I guess, for you. I talked about like what I do to kind of keep myself sane. I'm having recognized like what my issues were and why I was feeling so sad in the beginning. What types of things are you doing to keep yourself on track?
Before I answer that, let me underscore something that you said when you were responding, and that is we really do need to take the stigma away from us asking for help. As lawyers, and particularly as litigators, most folks are the ones that are giving the help, and we don't want to be seen as weak and needing help ourselves. We definitely need to, we're human, we're all human. There have been times when the weight of issues are on my shoulders so hard that I absolutely need help, whether it's a friend or what. We need to do that. And, of course, I lost a good friend and a colleague last year to suicide. And the State Bar also has a suicide awareness program. I think Robin Clark, the president, a few before Bob, actually brought that to our attention. And I know, unfortunately, too many people that have lost their lives from that. And we need to make sure that we're reaching out. We need to know what the signs are. We need to know when to encourage people to get help, because it's, I've never suffered from depression. Certainly I've been sad at times during things in my life that haven't gone well, either that I could control or couldn't control, but I've never been through depression. So I don't have the unique perspective of someone who has. I have talked with those that have, and I think I understand from those discussions better about it. And I do know that this is not something you can just shake off. You can just, hey, just quit being sad. You can't say that and make everything better, because mental illness, which depression falls under, may require professional help, may require medication, may require other treatments. And so we need to encourage the people who are falling susceptible to something that they, if they need help, we need to help them get help. So when you're walking down the hall at Miles, or when I'm at the court and I see a friend and I say, hey, how you doing? And they go, fine. Dig a little deeper than that, especially if you think that they might not be fine. Because, I think mental health help has in the past held a stigma that you can't, do it on your own. I think we're getting to where it's more normal, and it's getting a little more normalcy, and that's a good thing. So, I can't tell you the number of times. I mean, I don't on a regular basis go see a psychologist, but I definitely call my best friend and we talk about things, and we talk about issues in our lives and what would help with certain things that are going to alleviate pain and stress and whatnot. So make sure you reach out to your friends. And, you can go to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI website, and they'll give you the 10 indicators for mental illnesses and or depressions. And you can kind of, if you see someone who is not themselves, go down the checklist and see if it's something that you need to intervene in. Because with my friend Steve Goss, who was on the court, there are many of us that feel like we should have seen this coming. I don't know that you ever really can, but there are indicators that some people have pointed to in hindsight. But to answer your question, what do? I have redoubled my physical activities. We're all homeschooling now, those of us that have children, and not by choice. All the schools have closed down. Ironically, my wife and I were actually considering homeschooling next year anyway, so this is a good trial run.
Did you change your minds yet?
Well, we've been asked that a lot, and not yet. But my wife takes on the academic teaching, and I'm the PE coach. So I'll get the kids up in the morning, and sometimes I'll take them out first for a walk or a bike ride or whatever in the morning to kind of get the day going. Sometimes we get to that, we vary it. But we have competitions. My two kids are 15 months apart, and they're very competitive. And so we'll make them do races, or we'll make them do other things for competition. We've got Fitbits for them, and we say if they get 10,000 steps a day, then they can get an extra hour on their tablets and to play with their friends. So there are different things. I have to be out there and supervise it, and I do that. And then when they are doing their own stuff, I still go do my own exercise. There have been people that have said that this Corona shelter in place has made them gain their freshman 15 again. Well, I've lost mine. Great, I'm back to where
I'm jealous.
Yeah, well, I'm working out all the time now, and it's good. It relieves stress, and so that's what I do. I run, I bike, I get on the elliptical, and I run after my kids. We have thank goodness we have a swimming pool in our backyard, so that's been great for the kids and good physical exertion too.
That's great. It's funny because my kids are basically doing the opposite. My oldest is a stress baker, so he's been baking a lot. And so, when your kid brings you some kind of baked good and they're eagerly waiting for you to eat it, you're like, oh God, I don't really want to eat this. I don't need the calories, but you're going to eat it. It's not worth hurting a little kid's feelings. So yeah, we've got the opposite going on over here. So I definitely like that idea about the Fitbit. I think I will be ordering some, turn that into a competition, because I've got super competitive kids. So good. That's a good idea.
Well, my kids love to bake too and cook, and they watch cooking shows, and my daughter will bake cakes like you just said. But I've found out that when they go to bed, the dog really enjoys the chocolate cake. So I'll feed the dog bowl.
Dogs couldn't eat chocolate.
Huh?
I thought dogs couldn't eat chocolate.
Well, mine does.
I mean, I don't have a dog. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I don't know. He liked it.
Well, we'll Google it when we're done. So we've talked about kind of like how we're keeping ourselves up, and we talked a little bit about our kids. How do you manage a staff that's at home? How do you check in with them? Are you focused on their level of morale? Are you even able to gauge their level of morale?
Yes, and yes. And the great thing about the court is we are able to work remotely, and because I live in Albany, 3 hours from Atlanta, and because some of my Atlanta clerks, also the staff attorneys, they also telecommute because they've got family issues that make it so that they need to do that. We have done that before the pandemic, but we continue to do it. So we sometimes do telephone calls, but we also Zoom like you and I are doing right now. And usually once a week, or sometimes every other week if things are not pressing. We operate in 3 terms of court per year, kind of like trimesters, and it's not as important that we're talking about things at the beginning of it, which we're kind of still at the beginning of it. So right now it's every week and a half to 2 weeks we get together But of course, anytime they need to talk to me, they can pick up the phone and call me, and they do. And I do when I have questions for them, and we email a lot. But we do Zoom interactions, and in fact, I've sometimes called them, just say, look, I'm not even calling about a particular case. I just want to know how you're doing, and I just check in on them to make sure they're doing all right. And I do the same thing for other people here in Dougherty County, particularly my judges who did get infected with COVID. Some of them were quarantined at home, and some of them have been to the hospital. I'm regularly checking up on them to make sure they're doing okay. But we all need to do that. We need to stay in touch with folks and just make sure everything's okay.
Yeah, I think I mentioned to you either right before we started recording or in another conversation that my friends and I use a color-coded heart system. So we use like the color emoji hearts, and
Right.
Red means you're doing great, you're feeling good, everything's fine, and that if somebody needs some assistance, they're the person to reach out to at that moment. And then it's like 5 or 6 different color hearts at various stages of okayness, I suppose we could say.
Right.
Once you get farther down on that scale, that color scale, it means someone needs to reach out to me soon, or someone needs to reach out to me immediately. And so that, that really is a great way of reaching out for help without articulating it, because it's definitely difficult. Like we were talking about before, there's a stigma. And so even when, this is obviously like a group of my girlfriends, and we're all in a text chain together. So these are people we know very well. And it's still hard to say, hey, I'm having a hard time. But it's pretty easy to, pull up your phone and click the heart, and somebody is going to call you. So,
Right.
if it's just a matter of reaching out to someone. And sometimes, when we have these calls, the person who needs help isn't even talking. Sometimes they can't talk. They're just silent. They're so sad they can't. And then you just spend the time, talking about your day, or talking about what's going on with you, or sometimes it's the opposite, and they just need someone who's going to be there to listen. So I think we definitely have to, as part of relieving the stigma, is say that, you and I are not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, and we don't have to pretend to be. No one expects us to be. But what we can be is good people. We can be good neighbors. We can be good friends, and we can reach out and we can listen. And if someone does need help, you can tell what kind of help they need a lot of the time. And if it's more help than you can give, I hope that people will refer back to the website, to the Georgia Bar website, and to the hotline that you mentioned, and we can start taking care of each other. Because, as lawyers, we're and I hate to use the cliche, but we are in this together because, our state courts, our superior courts, they're closed. And a lot of people are losing money, and your mortgage is still due. And a lot of people live on razor thin margins. And so, typically people will have 2 to 3 months of savings if they have it. And here we're in month 2. So it's not at all unusual right now for people to be really upset and hurting. And so the very least I think that we can do is reach out to each other and lend a hand, lend an ear.
Absolutely. And if you're in a position to help in other ways, do that. I mean, we're trying to eat out at my friends who own restaurants, and we're trying to provide meals to people who don't have meals, and we're trying to do other things where it's needed. And, my daughter, who is 10, actually said she wants to start sewing masks. So I'm going to go get some materials for her to sew masks to give to people. And so you're right. We're all in this together, and there's something everyone can do.
Yeah. And I think that, first of all, that's really adorable that your little girl is going to start sewing masks. But I also think that that's part of like a cathartic process. You've got that sense of stress, and you've got that sense of there's not a whole lot I can do. I'm a little girl. What can I do? She can sew masks.
Yeah.
That's very cool that she identified that, and she's going to put that into action. That's awesome.
I know. I look forward to helping her with it.
Listen, I am going to sign right up for a Hodges original mask.
We'll see what they look like. We hadn't gotten that far yet, but she actually got there was a woman here in town that taught a sewing class to the young girls, and my daughter took two, I don't remember how many segments of sewing, and really enjoyed it, and got a sewing machine from her grandmother for Christmas. And so we're going to put that sewing machine to work.
That's awesome. Well, good luck. That's going to be great. That's like, I don't know. It's like life skills 101 kind of a thing, like things we don't do anymore, like home ec. So that's been a really interesting part of quarantine. Also, I am a terrible teacher. I will just come out and say that. Homeschool is not something that I need to be doing. So sometimes my poor kids they'll miss the entire like academic lesson that's been laid out, and we'll just learn other things. Like today we're sorting laundry, and I'm going to teach her how to fold a fitted sheet, So
that's a good lesson to learn.
I mean, a lot of people don't know how to fold a fitted sheet. I luckily, I do. I'll pat myself on the back for that one.
You need to do a YouTube video on that.
I should, right? But Ken, I really want to thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it. It's been enlightening. I've learned a lot about the bar and the offerings that are available for lawyers as far as mental health and addiction and suicide. So hopefully our audience has learned a lot.
Services as well. The solace service, if a lawyer falls on hard times, maybe something that they can use. And one thing that I would suggest is if you are idle and down right now and looking for something to do, go to the law practice management section of the bar. There are resources there about things that you can do to improve your practice. And if you're a solo right now and you don't have files to work on, could work on your marketing, and you might be able to retool your website, or you might be able to do things like you're doing with this webinar podcast to try to help increase marketing. So there are things that you can be doing right now. Don't just sit for 2 months and let 2 months go by.
Right.
Think about what you can do strategically right now during this downtime so that you hit the ground running when this thing breaks free.
Yeah. So, I'll tell you, the webinar kind of, it's turned into a very cool outlet for me as well, personally, but it really came from wanting to help people, because I was hearing so many lawyers say they didn't really know what to do with themselves, and they didn't know how to move their cases forward, or if they should move them forward, or maybe I'll just take a vacation, and I was seeing a lot of people kind of in this like weird, spiral. And so I thought, based on what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, because I try to keep abreast of all these issues. Our courts are closed. We don't know when they're going to open. We had an opening date of, I want to say it was late April, and then it turned into mid-May. So we don't really know what's going to happen. We might open in mid-May. We may not. And even then, at that point, who knows how long it's going to take for everything to get scheduled. So we're just kind of in this period where we need to figure out other ways to handle our problems, besides running to our local court system, because they may not be able to help us right away. And you did. Well,
there'll be a flood when it opens, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. But you kind of made a joke about people running to mediation, but it's true. If your clients need money, and they probably need money more now than they did before, it's definitely a good way to pull your case out of the trial hopper and mediate it, or pull it out of the court system entirely and arbitrate it. There are ways to make sure your clients are served and you make money, and then also help clear up the people who really do need the court system, like the criminal lawyers, the family lawyers, things like that.
Absolutely. I'm always in favor of a good settlement. Nothing to appeal. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Ken, if there isn't anything else you would like to add, I want to say thank you again.
Well, thank you. And the only thing I'll add is for you to be safe and be well. And for those who have tuned into your podcast, I hope that y'all are all safe and well. And, and remain COVID free. And I hope we all get through this together soon. I know that we will, but I hope that that this virus doesn't affect anyone additionally that it's already affected.
I will second that, and thank you for the well wishes, and of course to you and yours also. I pray you guys stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Call me anytime.
You've been listening to The Future of Resolution, the podcast. You can follow The Future of Resolution on Miles Mediation and Arbitration's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, and subscribe, rate, or review this podcast. Join us soon for another interesting discussion. Thank you for listening.